Good day, everybody. We will get going here in just a minute. I think it takes a minute for everybody to load in. So this is the small period of time where I just hold down the fort and maybe tell a joke or two. If anybody else has a joke or two, I'm happy to have them shared. One I heard recently is why do ghosts like healthy food? Because it's supernatural. Yes, yes.
That's a groaner.
Well, it seems like the attendees list is still clicking up slightly, but slower. So I'm going to go ahead and launch in. Thanks everybody for being here. My name is Mac McFarland, and I am with the Regional Art and Culture Council, and I am the project manager for this project here in North Portland for this project, and I am sitting in North Portland on the lands of the Kaliapua people and many other tribes from the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, other tribes in and around the Pacific Northwest who made their homes, still make their homes along the Columbia River Basin. So it's really an honor to be here and an honor to be here with all of my colleagues. I will let them introduce themselves and then we will start sharing some screen. Kevin, I'll pass it over to you first.
Oh, awesome. Hey, thanks, Mac. It's so awesome to see all these names. I can't see your faces, but it's really exciting to be here. My name is Kevin Kearns, and I'm the project manager from Multnomah County, who's working on both this library, the North Portland Library, as well as the Albina Library. And I'm here to share with you just a little bit about the context as we, and then we'll launch into the details that Mac will share. And who wants to go next? Benjamin?
Hi, everyone. I'm Benjamin Feinstein. I use he, him pronouns, and I work at RAC supporting public art programs and grant making. And today I just want to mention that we have with us Mary and Hannah providing ASL interpretation and Idella on captioning. So please make sure to look out for them and pin them if they're not pinned for you already.
Great. Thank you so much. And I think this went into the chat, but there is a link to the live transcript in the chat. I'll just pop it back in there. So if you came in a little later, you have access to that. We do have the ability for let people raise their hands to ask questions. If you want to use that feature, you're welcome to. You're of course also welcome to just use the Q&A function down at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, and that's about it. I think we are going to go ahead and just get rolling here. I am going to share my screen. Hopefully everybody is seeing a slide of a rendering of the North Portland Library. So yeah, this is what we're here to talk about, Multnomah County Library and the expansion / renovation of the North Portland Library. It's a really exciting moment. We're going to talk all about these images. So I am going to dive right in. We're really here to talk about this art glass that will be inside of the Black Cultural Center within the new expansion. It's about an 800 square foot space. We'll see a lot more images of it, and this was just like a real quick high level overview. In case you only watch the first 10 minutes of this, you'll get a little bit. The area here is about 185 square feet within these panels, including the doorway. There's also an opportunity to expand beyond it. The budget here is $55,000 for this opportunity. This is a 2D opportunity to create these glass walls and doors, to create an artwork onto them. And that will be an all-inclusive, and we'll get into that budget a bit later on. And then this is a real high-level look at the timeline. So applications will be due Wednesday, September 6th at 11:59 p.m. We will then start a process of reviewing the applications and pick somebody to interview. And then that artist will be selected probably by October. And then we'll really sort of get into a design process with community engagement if desired, and then launch into fabrication. And this will be installed probably late summer 2024. So about this time next year. So as I said, with RAC. RAC is an independent nonprofit that's been around for about 50 years. And we do a lot of works. We do advocacy and grant making, as well as education and other types of resources for artists and cultural producers all around the Tri-County area that we serve. And we, of course, do public art for the Tri-County area, including Multnomah County, which is who this project's for. And this is an artwork by R.V. Smith that's part of the public art collection that is not too far from this neighborhood on MLK and Alberta. And now I'm going to pass this over to Kevin to just talk a little bit about the library.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Mac. So there's a couple slides here that just give you some background on the system itself. Right, so we're one of the oldest library systems on the west coast, and as you can sort of see here, that we're the oldest past the Mississippi, and not only we've been around for a while, but we've been one of the most popular library systems in North America for quite some time. So most people don't know this, but whether you measure by number of patrons served or books moved, we've always been extremely well used by the community. So much so that if you use the libraries and use them before the pandemic, you may have seen, as I have, just that some of these buildings have been overused, and us realizing that helped us realize that we needed to look carefully about our system and whether or not we had the resources needed to meet the community's needs. Next slide. And what we sort of discovered was that we weren't meeting the community's needs. We did a sort of a deep dive audit on kind of where we were across the county, like geographically, and sort of where the growth of the county was happening. And we realized that there was a mismatch. We had a lot of our libraries were on the west side, and a lot of the growth was on the east side of the county. So that was one of the things that we realized through this audit. But another one was that some of the areas throughout the county, we have historically not served them as well as we should. And in particular, the two libraries that I'm working on, so the Albina and North Portland libraries, had not really served the Black community as well as we should have over the years. So a couple of things that we realized through this audit was we didn't have enough space, and we weren't probably set up we weren't investing in the right parts of the county. So we're trying to address sort of the historic inequities through this bond program that we have. And you sort of see here that in this bond program, there was a set of libraries that we're starting with. There's a bunch of them. We're going to be touching almost all libraries, but we're really focusing our efforts on East County and then some specific libraries throughout the Portland area. And again, the ones in North and Northeast Portland, there's some of them. So once we did that audit and realized where the gap was, we created a program of trying to repair this gap. And that program became the basis of a bond request. What you can sort of see here on this slide is, hey, we went out to the public and the voters decided to support our request for roughly a $400 million bond to try and again, sort of change the distribution of the resources and try and fix some of the inequities that that have happened over the years. And when we were starting to look in detail at sort of, well, where we had we hadn't invested enough, those that the North and Northeast were, again, some of the focus. But one of the things that we had realized is that we hadn't been sort of creating the kind of welcome that we want. We needed to make sure that we had the resources to meet the needs of the community. We needed to have the flexibility to meet the changing needs of the community. And then as importantly, we needed to make sure that the libraries were welcoming to the communities that they were intended to serve. And one of the things we're trying to do with both library projects is really make space for this kind of the sense of welcome. And what we're talking about today, the art that we're talking about, is going to play a major portion in creating that welcome and sort of reflecting the communities that they serve historically, but also looking prospectively about how we'll continue to meet these. And we hope that these pieces will play a significant role in creating the identity of the space, but not just of thinking about where we are now, but also thinking about where we're going to be in the future. And so that gives you a little bit of background of kind of how we got to where we are and what we're trying to do with the program. But as you have questions about that, I can certainly answer at any time throughout this webinar.
Great.
Back to you, Nick.
Thanks so much, Kevin. It's super great. So yeah, we're going to be diving in here to the North Portland Library. This is on Killingsworth and Commercial in North Portland. And it opened in 1913 on some land donated from the neighborhood. And this is the sort of main entrance to the library and just a view of the interior, how it is now. And as I said, this sits in North Portland, that's in the Humboldt neighborhood specifically. It really straddles North and Northeast Portland. You can see here a little bit closer in view of where it sits in that neighborhood. It's right next to Jefferson High School. Across the street is Portland Community College. Vancouver Avenue is just down the street. This is a very, very bustling, lively neighborhood. There's a lot of businesses, restaurants, and shops all along this place. So it's really a hub for the neighborhood in this area. And so the expansion and the renovations are being done, led by the Lever Architecture with Nolan Tam Architects as some of their partners. And this is just some more renderings of the site. And then this is a kind of high level floor plan of the library and some of the expansions. There's 8,700 square feet of renovation into this historic Carnegie Library, which is what they're calling this old building because it was funded through a grant from the Carnegie Corporation back in the 1910s. And then there'll be an additional 1,500 square foot of space between the staff workroom area, as well as then the Black Cultural Center, which we'll be speaking a lot about today. The children's area will be moved towards the back of the library. It's currently up here. You'll see there's this round circulation desk, and you'll see some of these images as we go through. So this is a view from Commercial. You'll see there's an entry back here. This won't be the main entry. This will still be a sort of secondary entry for any events that might happen in the Black Cultural Center in the evening. So again, this will still maintain its main entrances here on Killingsworth. And this is a view of the interior of that main space, which you see this rounded desk, as well as this old ceiling and the old lights that you see before. Those will be coming back. And then this is a view out towards Commercial Avenue. You'll see here, this is the passageway that'll be used actually to get from inside of the main space to the Black Cultural Center, just to sort of show you how this works. So here's the main entrance, that circular desk we were just looking at. And then there's this doorway. So that view that we were just looking at here is this doorway here. So that will take you into kind of a couple of different interstitial spaces that'll actually have some programming and information in them as you then enter into the Black Cultural Center through this doorway here. And some more views. It's a really beautiful space. I think the architects did an amazing job to create something that is unique and singular upon itself, really holding its own, but then also really marrying and matching up well with this old style building. You can see this brick, this kind of protruding out, creating this beautiful pattern along the building that's really going to catch the light in an amazing way in the street too. You'll notice that there's a lot of images that are where the blue is being painted into the renderings. And part of the community engagement process, library patrons were asked to vote on some different themes for that interior look. And option B was selected, the Afrofuturism and Black Imagination theme. And you'll have, within the supplemental materials, this PDF is available so you can review it if you're interested. But you'll notice on some of the renderings, things are being rendered in the blue, and in some of the renderings are older and they don't have that blue color, but you can imagine that everything will in the end. So here we are inside of the Black Cultural Center. This is a view of what you would see when you sort of like walked in. There would be some shelves to your left, this large wall with built-in shelves, some windows, and of course a window to your left that would also point out towards Commercial Ave. And then this is the glass on the right side of the building as you enter, with the doorway that heads off into the patio deck area. And this is where the artwork would be. We have some more images. So these are the shelves I was just describing to you that would be on your left as you came in. This is the sort of way you would come in. This is a very large window looking out on the Commercial Avenue that has a window bench here. And then this is the wall with the artwork on it again. So there's that bookshelf. The renderings, I know the different colors of paint might be confusing, but this is still the same room. And so you can see it has this patio deck out here on the other side of the window. And so this whole wall is about 12 feet tall and about 16 feet wide. And then the artworks can be solely just in the glass and on the glass, or it can also, within some conversations and within the design as that starts to unfold, there is an opportunity to spill off onto this wall here and here. And there's some other renderings that you'll see in a minute showing some more of that. But the area we really want to focus on is the glass itself. In producing the glass, we've gotten some quotes from some different fabricators and how this can work, and that's how we've really set the budget where we've landed, as well as some other projects we want to do into this space. So the glass would be split up into these different panels. The door, we were going to include it, and we weren't. Glass inside of a door can sometimes break, so. But we are going to go ahead and include it. And I think when we started working with an artist on design, we would just make sure that this wasn't an integral part of the design in case something did tragically happen to this piece of glass in the doorway. I'm going to play this. Oh, Kevin, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand there.
Oh, no worries. The only thing I wanted to say is that the theme was chosen, right? You were wholly correct about the color theme, but what I don't want to say is that those images are final in a sense. So though that theme, we will be using that to develop the final interior designs, but there's still a lot of work happening. I just had a meeting today on some of the furniture and some of the finishes. So we will make sure that that we'll be sharing the details of what's happening with the selected artist, but this is not final.
Great, thank you. Feel free to just unmute and jump in, because I don't necessarily always see the hands come up in this mode that we're in.
Yeah, will do. I'll just shout out.
Thanks. So yeah, we're just going to play this fly through that was developed by Lever, and I'll pause it probably at a couple times too during, so we can all have a look. So yeah, coming up commercial here. So one thing you'll notice here is, this is the window looking into commercial. So this is the one that has the seat in it, but you can clearly see the back window here. So it will be really visible from commercial. And then here we are on the inside. I'm just going to pause it here again. So here you see that wall, and you can see the kind of extra space that's here on the left. It'll pan across and cut here in a minute. You'll see what that corner, keep an eye on these guys. You'll see them again. But yeah, you can really see this this kind of expanse and what'll be, you'll be working with in terms of marrying a design to what's on the other side of the glass. And of course, people will see this art from both sides of the glass, as well as, they'll be looking through the work to these buildings and to this foliage. So, it'll be important to have various levels of transparency and translucency, perhaps even some clear glass areas, just so we have a good flow of light and energy moving within the space. So here, yeah, you can kind of see this extra little bit of wall here. This is, of course, just a placeholder artwork. There will be some rotating artworks that are a part of the program into this space. So this will be one of those areas. And now here we are inside of the library. So this is that children's area. This is the back of the library. Here's that sort of round desk in the main entry up there. And then this is on the upstairs part of the library. This is the community center. That'll also be redone a bit. And again, this is just a placeholder mural that's been painted into there. But there's a lot of events that happen up in this space. And the kind of nighttime view. There will be curtains that could be drawn across there at certain times. So it won't always be open to the public like that. There we go. Yep. So there's that wall again. And just some other views again, you're really just being able to see it from the street side. It's kind of an interesting dynamic to this project. Okay, so these goals and some of this information that are coming to you now are really developed with the art selection panel, as well as feedback from the extensive community engagement that was done by Multnomah County Library Systems and the architects, really getting that feedback and input from people who have been using this library, just to hear what they want and how they want the artworks to be a part of that. So one of the main things we really heard is that the artwork should really feel permanent, that it should feel like it's really resting here, and it will be here for a very long time. And in part, that's why we chose this area and to do the glass as part of that, that it's really then an embedded part of the building, not simply a mural. So that's a big part of it, and that it could have that the design should have a kind of longevity and a grounding and be withstanding, rather than, kind of fitting within a current moment of trend. We also really hope that it'll have a high visual impact that has also a storied and a festive feel to it as it welcomes folks into the space. I think it should, of course, reinforce the identity of the Black Cultural Center. And with that is, this space will be used for so many different activities. There will be times where this space is filled with children and joy, and it is loud and dynamic. And there are going to be other times where it is a moment of somber. There's a very somber feel to what's taking place into this space. And so the artwork should be able to work with all of those different types of activities while delivering a sense of place and belonging and trust, really creating a moment for people when they walk in where they feel welcomed. And of course, it should work with the space and not hinder the use of the space, as we were just talking about. And then this on the right, art matters for this space. The art can aid in making communities feel welcome by seeing ourselves in that art, and bold and colorful. Those were comments that came from the community engagement that was conducted. And here's some other community engagement. So these were just some questions that were asked of participants, and we just really pulled out some of the remarks that really dealt with the art. Of course, the community engagement, the full community engagement report is a part of the supplemental materials. So you have access to that if you're interested in kind of this deeper dive into those aspects of this program. But you can see that, art was just a lot of ways of people were engaging with the library. And of course, we're not expecting the glass art program to be a kinetic artwork. We don't expect this project to fulfill all of the desires that are in that community engagement report, but it's just information to have on for yourself. Of course, some designs can be static while evoking a lot of amazing motion and dynamism. So eligibility for this project. This is a opportunity that's open to artists and teams based in Oregon and Washington. And so there's a question about is there one artist for the whole program? And really we're just talking about this particular artwork today. So there will be any other artworks that are part of this project within the Black Cultural Center will have separate processes for selecting those artists. And so there will be multiple artists working within these, but you can apply as a team. And if one of those must meet this sort of residence eligibility requirement. And it's important to note too that you don't need to have past glass experience to work on this project. That's something we're really interested in, is sort of helping people sort of move into that space, but I can talk a little bit more about that. And of course, folks who have experience or have been a part of this community, who have used this library or live in the Humboldt neighborhood, those folks will be, that is the kind of community connection we're really hoping to connect. And of course, we know that, there's only a certain limited number of artists who live in the Humboldt neighborhood or even in North and Northeast Portland. So that won't be the deciding factor, but it is just something we are thinking about. How does the artist who is selected to make this work, how do they fit into the milieu of North Portland Library overall? And so artists will be asked to deliver a high quality artwork, which then can be translated into the glass. So again, we're not expecting you as the artist to deliver, 3 thermal units at the exact right dimensions. We realize you'll be working with a fabricator, and we're really here to help facilitate that process. I actually am just wrapping up, or not quite wrapping up, but it's in production, another glass art project for a site here in Portland. And with that project, we did select an artist who had never worked in glass before. And that's a very large project, 56-foot long walls, 2 of them. And so there's a lot of expertise and assistance that we bring to this process to really help an artist work towards really bringing their work and their practice to another place. And so we'll help with the digitization if that's what's needed. This kind of fabrication process works in a lot of different ways. With the one we just are in fabrication on right now, it's really starting from hand-drawn materials, which are then digitized and notes taken on. So there's a lot of different ways that these fabricators can work on these things. Yes, there is no age requirement in the eligibility. I saw that question. So again, the budget is $55,000. And this is, as I said, all inclusive for delivering really the glass. And then, of course, if people were interested in doing things a little bit beyond the glass, that's something we could speak about more with the selected artist. And this fee, though, is all inclusive. So it includes the artist fee, the design development, materials and fabrications, installation, any kind of community engagement you would like to do, and then sort of like admin overhead costs that artists would, of course, come into with just communicating and coordinating with the design team and the construction team and any kind of third-party contractors who might need to be developed to help provide this artwork. We'll be working with you, with the selected artist, on that installation and really working with the general contractor on getting the artwork installed. So the selection process right now, it'll be entirely virtual. The panel that we have is a group of folks from Multnomah County Libraries, local artists and community members within this area. A lot of those community members were involved in other aspects of the community engagement process, so they're intimately familiar with a lot of this. And then you'll really be working with myself and Kevin and other folks within Lever as part of this process. What we're going to do is we're going to review all of the RFQs, requests for qualifications, and requests for qualifications, and then selecting one finalist to interview for that commission. So all the application materials are coming through the RAC portal. If you haven't used the RAC portal, just go ahead and get in there. And when you go to this link, there's a place to make a SurveyMonkey apply. That's the service who creates this tool that we use, and you can just register here. It's a really easy process, but if you've never used it, I would get in there long before this deadline of September 6th, and just start your application. That way you're not finding any bumps in the road, scrambling on those last days. I realize we are all time optimists here in the creative fields, and we definitely like to have things go towards the end of the deadlines. So for these application materials, it's a pretty simple request. So this is a request for qualifications rather than a request for proposals. So at this time, we're not asking for any proposals. What we're really looking for is to get an idea of your past works and what you've done, and to think we can then imagine what you might want to create here in the space. And we'll be selecting artists based on that. So that would include an artist bio or resume of no more than 2 pages. If you are applying as a team, please include a bio and resume for all the team members, but just create it into one single PDF. And then we'll be looking at 8 past work samples. So, this is really the way that your art, the selection will really happen. It's just a great way for a panelist to understand an artist's work is to look at past works. So for each work sample, you can provide 2 images. So really you can have 16 images total, but 8 work samples. So a work sample should just be 2 images of the same artwork. So it could be different views or a detail. And then for that, really providing as much information as you can. We really require this information: the title, the media, the dimensions, the year completed, budget and location. For budget and location, if it's a studio piece, that really doesn't have a budget attached to it, feel free to put 0 in there. And for location, again, if it's a studio piece, you can just put NA on that. You don't have to include those. But if it was a commissioned project, that kind of information is really great to have for the panel. And then the conceptual information, this is really open-ended. There's there's a wide character count in that area. So you can put in extra information in that space, and don't be shy about putting that extra information. I think really giving people a sense of what this artwork might be about within that area is really a great way to help elucidate for the panelists what your work is about. And then finally, for the application materials is a statement of interest. This is a short 300 characters or less. And we really ask you to just sort of speak about what your interests are in this project, like why you would want to make an artwork for the North Portland Library, why you would want to make an artwork in glass, and then why some of these themes and focus for this are interest to you. Why you might be a good match for this project. Do you have that relationship with the neighborhood? Do you have a relationship with books in Multnomah County Library? Do you, really, are you a glass art master? And that's a reason why you should have this project. And then really thinking about, the mission and values of the project and the ways you connect up to those. And then, of course, speaking about your ability to complete the scope of work, which is this delivery of the glass art, but again, working within a fabrication. And then community engagement. Community engagement isn't required for this project, but it has been deeply important for the process of Multnomah County Libraries to hear from community members about what they're doing great and what they do need to improve, and then how that also fed into the different programming and missions of the Black Cultural Center and other aspects of the library. So if that's a part of your process, please speak about that. And again, though, it's not a requirement to do community engagement for this project. And really an important one too here is that if you were applying as a team, to be sure to speak about how you would work together as a team, especially if you haven't ever worked together in the past and your work samples are, these are my work samples and these are their work samples. It's really important to talk about how you would work together. Somebody's mentioned as asking me if I meant 300 characters, and I don't. It's 3,000 characters or less for the statement of interest. It's really just about 3 paragraphs, 3, 5 to 7 sentence paragraphs kind of get you to that 3,000 character spot. If you want to answer the statement as written, you can, of course, or if you would rather, you can upload an audio or video statement. The audio and video recording should be no longer than 2 minutes, and there's a place to do that within the system. So selection process. So once everything closes, the panel will start to review the RFQs and we'll pick a semi-finalist to interview. They'll really be looking at the quality of past works based on the images and information you provide. They'll really be thinking about your ability and interest to create this work for the Black Cultural Center. That'll really be evidenced through the past works and your statement. And they'll also look at the ways in which your past artworks fit into the general goals of this project, community engagement and design being one of those, but also just like your ability to create really impactful artwork. And then, of course, your interest and ability to connect with North Portland Library, with the Humboldt neighborhood, or with surrounding neighborhoods, and with the communities that the library is served by. Sorry, I'm just checking. Nope, no questions. I don't think we have it answered. And then the timeline. So here we are, August 23rd at this Zoom session. We launched this on August 7th. September 6th, the applications are due at 11:59 p.m. We'll start reviewing immediately after that, and somebody will be selected for an interview by October. And that the award will be decided in October. And then we'll get into a time for design and community engagement if necessary and if desired, pretty quickly. And then really fabrication should start sometime in the spring of 2024 for the installation in the summer of 2024. And I think somebody might have a hand up and want to ask a question. Can you, Benjamin, can you just?
Yeah, I think it was someone named Io. Would you still like to put your hand back up? Okay, great.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi. I actually just sent the question, but I'm a little confused about the company that makes the windows, are they the ones that would embed the work in the glass?
Yeah.
I'm still confused.
So, yeah, totally. So there's a few different manufacturers. What we'll be asking and helping an artist do is identify a particular glass studio or fabricator to work with. And it won't be the same people who are providing the glass for, say, the front of the Black Cultural Center. Glass fabricators have the ability to create artworks that are embedded in the glass. Sometimes that can be hand painted, sometimes that can be digitally produced within the glass. And those manufacturers, those studios, are able to create the thermal units needed for this project. And we have the scope from the architects and the contractors on what is needed. And we would work with the artist as well as then the fabricator to get them all that information, and they would help you produce that work. And so what we've done is we've spoken to a couple of different fabricators who can produce this, a lot in the digital form, because that seems like the right type of medium, but there are other possibilities
Okay.
for this. And so we've gotten some quotes from them, and so that's what we've based the budget on at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for asking.
Of course.
And then Mac, just to follow on Io's question, is that the only way they could produce this work, or would they be able to propose a different strategy rather than something embedded in the laminated glass?
There could be a possibility of doing it another way. And I think that would just be a conversation. You know, I don't think we would want to do something that was simply an application on top of the glass in terms of durability. So I'm not sure. And there would be a possibility if the artist selected was a glass master that they wanted to produce some kiln form glass for this. That could also be a possibility. Everything would just need to be rated up to the specs for this area.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. And then, okay, so I'm just going to, we're sort of into the questions. I'm just going to put up this slide, which is again, just kind of that recap slide. Aaron has asked if I can talk more about what you want to see in a video statement and what you wouldn't want to see in a video statement. For the video statement, it would really be the same questions for the written. So it's, you know, really looking at those same types of information. And I can go back to that slide if I can find it relatively quickly. No, do it. So for the video statement, we would want these same questions answered. Just making sure those questions are all been addressed. It looks good. And are there any other questions folks have? You're welcome to raise your hand or put it into the chat, whichever you prefer.
Hi, Mark.
Yes,
Hi, me again.
yes.
Another question. So I understand that there's this desire to have an artist who somehow connects to North Portland and this area. And I'm wondering, do you feel like you have a pool to choose from? Or, are there a lot of artists in the area who are interested in public art and connecting with the community in that way?
Yeah, I would think that it's so hard to know
Yes.
how to answer that question in a way. And I think that's why we're saying what we're hoping that I think that would be like the gold standard, right? Like, oh boy, this person is like born and bred in Humboldt neighborhood and is also an amazing artist. But we also know that that's a little bit of a unicorn, and that we could be chasing our tail on that. And so, really, we're looking for an artist who knows what it's like to work within communities that have been underserved and that, come from an experience of a kind of like lived experience of understanding what that means to be from an underserved community, and who can bring some of that perspective into this project.
Okay.
We've heard a lot from library patrons that they really want to see themselves reflected in the artwork. And I don't think that necessarily means people want to see images that look like them all the time, but they also want to understand that the artists who are making the artwork do look like them, and do share some experiences that they share. Does that help?
It does, yeah. And I just have a quick follow-up.
Yeah,
My apologies for monopolizing your time.
you're fine.
So I don't have a real connection to North Portland. I'm a transplant, but I've had a lot of experience connecting with community and like workshopping projects and just really kind of being a listener to what folks would like to see in a space or in art. And I wonder if that's worth fleshing out in the application.
I definitely think so. I think that's the kind of information around participatory design or community engagement or social practice that would be interesting for the panel to hear.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Aaron, I see your hand is up, and if you would like to chime in.
Hello?
Hello, yes.
Hey, yeah, I guess it's kind of going off of Io's question a bit. For the community engagement piece, once there's an artist that's selected, what is, I know it's not expected, but if the artist were to do something related to bringing the community in on the creative process, what what has that looked like in the past? Have you had artists do that before? And I'm just curious what some of how about what is your all's experience like that
with
with that?
with the community engagement.
I guess yes, when it comes to bringing the community in, because you talked about some of the expenses related to having say like community meetings that are focused on like conceptual development and ideas and conversations around what they would want to see reflected in the final piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think those types of engagements processes happen in like a huge variety of ways. And so, I mean, it could be everything from hosting an event somewhere in the neighborhood, because the library is of course under construction, so we wouldn't be able to do it there. And then, oftentimes artists will develop prompting questions or prompting activities. Sometimes food and drinks might be provided. Sometimes other services are provided, just depending on what the artist would want to do. And we would really be looking for the artists to develop those kinds of programs, and we would be happy to help facilitate them and make them happen.
Okay, thank you. That you answered my question. Appreciate it.
Great. Yeah, no problem. There's a couple of questions in the chat I'm just going to answer live. Can the images be abstract? Yes, the images can be abstract, where there's nothing set in terms of, should this be representational images or abstract images? So definitely can be abstract. Somebody's asking if I could kind of pencil out how the budget might work out. And I mean, really, that's a lot for you to do. I can say that a lot of the, public art project budgets, dollars from public art projects, artist fees can never make up more than 20% of the total budget for the project. So that's always something to keep in mind when you're working in a public art project with public dollars. And yes, there are more items that are part of the project besides fabrication and installation and artist fee. And, I feel like those really depend on a different artist kind of background and practice. So that's really another piece for the artist to figure out if this would work within their studio system and their ways of working. So there's no budget required at this time for the RFQ, but it is always something good to think about.
But
Hi, Mac.
oops.
Oh,
Oh,
I was-
hey,
I was-
hold on.
hi, it's Lena Lewis.
Go
hold on
ahead,
a second, Lena. Let
Oh,
me
sure.
let Kevin chime in. I think you wanted to say something on what I
Oh,
just
I
did.
was just gonna, for you to share any of the work that you have done about what some of the fabrication costs might be. I understand that there's different ways to fabricate, but it isn't as if we haven't tested this, right? So we did some work,
Right.
so it might be helpful just to share that it can be afforded, at least the ways that you've explored within this overall budget. I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to share any more about that?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. One of the studios we talked with, Pulp Studios, does a digital process. So that's a way in which they take an artist design and they print into layers of laminated glass. And they can do this on multiple surfaces within the glass. And that had penciled out to be about $30,000 for this cost of this project. So that was one of the studios we spoke with.
No worries. And I think otherwise, it's sort of what you said, is there's different ways to produce it, but you have looked into it, and it seems that within this, you're able to be able to produce it at least in a couple of different ways you explore it.
Yeah, and that is for the thermal units that are required for this process. And yeah, so that's the budget. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Lena?
Oh, hey, hi.
Hello.
This is Lena Lewis. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Hi, sorry about that. Yes, so I was in the car for some of it and I'm not sure if I heard the question might have already been answered. But I was curious about how much engagement the artists will be able to have with the glass makers if we would like be able to do like hands-on production. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know that like it sounds like depending on who, you know, who is going to be making the glass, because that would be, it seems like that was part of um you know, part of the deal about getting artists those skills
Mhm.
and experience with the glass. And by the way, yeah, I'm the director of Viva La Free Arts Organization in North Portland. By us, for us, Black and Indigenous artists. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. So in terms of the production, in like a hands-on, I think, I mean, it would really be, we aren't determining the fabricator per se. We have some ideas of who could do this work and who can do this work within budget. But if there are other fabricators that you want to work with who could facilitate this project within this budget, then by all means. And those, you know, those fabricators might be able to do this. You know, the budgets for us are really set based on the percentage of the art. You know, the Portland has a 2% for the art program. And then we really have to base our budgets based around that. So for this process, you know, I don't think working with a fully hands-on kiln formed glass studio would work within this budget. But there are a lot of other ways of achieving this kind of glass, and that kind of hands-on approach would be, you know, really working within a fabricator who could translate the work into this form within budget.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, totally. I'm just going to answer a couple of questions from the chat really quickly, and then Aaron, I'll pass it on to you. So yes, the 55,000 is for the whole process. That is correct. Oops, one more up. And yes, and so yeah, the artist would get a fee, a portion of that for their fee. And as I said, that generally works out to be no, well, it can be no more than 20% for the fee. Can your artwork be split into 4 separate panes, or is it one large glass? So it will definitely be broken up into those 4 different panels that you see here in the green on the screen. And so the design would just work within that. So the design could be something that would go across all 4 and kind of create movement. You know, of course, dealing with this, there are ways that, you know, this could also become painted or a vinyl attached to it, perhaps. So it's really up to the artist to decide when we get to that design interview phase, if they would want to create, you know, more static frames that would each one would have, or if there's something that really creates it all the way across. You would develop there's a question if you submit a design with the past works and you don't, you can just submit past works, and then in the interview process, there will be an opportunity to share a design proposal at that point. So somebody's asking if the glass panels would serve to construct insulated glass units, or the panels are constructed to be sandwiched IGUs. So what we would do is the requirement is that there would be a IGU, a glass thermal glass unit for these sites, and we have all the specs for that. And the fabricator, glass fabricator, would produce those IGUs, those thermal units with your design in them and on them. Okay, Aaron, would you like to?
Hey, Mac, before you go on,
Yeah.
just with regards to that. So this is a question that you can correct me, but so the project absolutely needs the IGUs, right? So we need to have a certain thermal performance for the glass.
Yeah.
A way to do it is to integrate the art into that glass unit, right? Which you mentioned one of those companies that can do this that an artist could work with was Pulp Studios, and there are others that do that that can actually create the IGUs.
Yep.
There are other techniques. Now there's the question part. But there could be other techniques. Is it okay for someone to propose another technique that would be separate from the glass itself, but would still have the properties of transmitting light from the window? In other words, could it stand proud of the window? Could it be independent, or must it be integrated into the specific IGUs?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I know a lot about glass fabrication, but I don't know everything about glass fabrication. So I would say that in terms of creating an artwork that would have the durability that would meet a capital project, it would probably need to be somehow embedded into the IGU. And the ways of doing that are a multitude of different ways. So.
Oh, great. I just wanted to follow up, just make sure that we answered the question fully. So thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always that thing of, budget, expertise, and then of course, it needs to be something that is going to be long lasting and fulfill the capital requirement, and of course, fulfill the requirements of the building of having these thermal units.
Yep.
All right, Aaron, would you like to unmute and ask a question?
Yeah, so there was another question in the chat. I'm not sure if you touched on it yet or not, but the window itself is 4 separate panes. So could the final piece be something that has to spread across all of them, or can there be like individual like vertical pieces that kind of all connect or flow together in a way?
Yeah, that's really up to the artist.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. So that will be entirely up to the artist to propose.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We are at 5:06. This has been a great conversation, amazing questions. And I'm going to we're just going to put up the cat again in the sparkles and see if anybody else wants to see if the cat inspires any other questions from you. I'm really excited to have this project going underway and to have this Black Cultural Center opening up in our North Portland neighborhood. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Multnomah County Library, for all the amazing work you do. Thank you so much to our ASL interpreters and to our live captioners today. We super appreciate the work you do. Benjamin, thank you as well.
Yeah, and I want to add my thanks to everyone for being here. I'm super excited too. So thank you all. And I'm so excited to see what comes out of this.
Yeah. And with that, we'll sign off. If you have
Thank
started,
you.
if you've started an RFQ on the site, you'll be getting an email. And actually, if you were registered for this, you'll getting an email about the recording. So you'll have a chance to review it if you'd like. Thanks so much, everybody.
And good job, Mac. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.